Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, African Musing, where I muse and share my views on all things that pique my interest. So, if you haven't watched my video, Palestinians are not Arabs, please go and watch it. It will give you more information about this conflict, which I cannot touch on in this video. So, in this video, I'm speaking to Christians, especially Bible-believing Christians, who believe that the present-day Israel is the work of God, a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. As a Christian, a follower of and believer in Jesus Christ as my Savior and my Lord, I'm not here to condemn Christians. I made this video to give Christians another biblical interpretation of Bible prophecy about the present-day country of Israel than the one Christians have been taught from pulpits for decades. But first, let me start by saying my interpretation of the prophecy I will deal with in this video could be wrong. It is possible. After all, I'm making a video stating that Bible scholars' well-known interpretation of Bible prophecy where Israel is concerned has been wrong. If they could be wrong, then I could be wrong. But I feel it's necessary to bring my interpretation and let it be judged by Christians. What I say here, I will back up with scripture. Let's begin. I'm going to lay a foundation for us first. Have you heard of the statement, power of attorney? Let's say a businesswoman has a company that exports chocolate. Her company is in Nigeria, but she decides to move to Canada. Her company remains in Nigeria, so she hires a manager to manage her business in her stead. This manager will pay salaries, order things, and sign papers for her. In order for her manager to be able to do this, she gives the manager the power of attorney. The Wikipedia definition of this is, a power of attorney or letter of attorney is a written authorization to represent or act on another's behalf in private affairs, which may be financial or regarding health and welfare, business, or some other legal matter. The person authorizing the other to act is the principal, grantor, or donor of the power. The one authorized to act is the agent. So when this manager goes to the bank to pay employees from the business account, it will be the manager's signature on the payslip. But who actually paid the employees? Was it the manager or the businesswoman? It was the businesswoman that paid the salaries. The businesswoman under law is held responsible for paying salaries. It is her company. She employed those employees. The manager was just authorized by the businesswoman to act as an agent on her behalf, in her stead. So because she has authorized the bank to accept the manager's signature on her behalf, to be able to sign on her business bank account, in the eyes of the bank, it is the businesswoman that signed the payslip. We see this also in the Bible in the Gospels. In Matthew 8 and in Luke 7 in the Bible, we have the account about a Roman centurion who had a servant that was sick and who came to Jesus to ask for healing of his servant. Now, the interesting thing is that Matthew 8 records it as the centurion came to Jesus and asked for help. But Luke 7 tells us that actually the centurion didn't come to Jesus himself. In fact, he stated that he didn't feel worthy to come to Jesus. So he sent Jewish leaders to make the request for help on his behalf. So what's going on here? Did the centurion come to Jesus himself, or did he send Jewish elders? When you understand the power of attorney, you understand why this story was recorded the way it was in Matthew. No, the centurion did not come to Jesus physically. But since he sent people on his behalf, it is recorded as if he came to Jesus himself. Because he did. Those elders came on his behalf. The centurion asked Jesus to heal his servant. It wasn't the Jewish leaders asking Jesus, it was the centurion asking. The elders were just his mouthpiece, his microphone. But it was his words. It was him asking Jesus, not them. So Matthew 8 records it as him, while Luke 7 delves into the nitty-gritty details of how he sent Jewish elders on his behalf. And that meticulous detailing is actually a common trait in Luke's account of the gospel. Luke was a doctor who went to investigate the story of Jesus, talking to eyewitnesses. It must have been his medical education and practice that caused this attention to detail. So what does this have to do with Israel? Well, let me take you to a prophecy that Jesus made in Matthew 24, 4-5, Matthew 24, 23-26, and Mark 13, 21-23. The Matthew prophecy is more detailed. It says in verse 4, Jesus answered, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name claiming, I am the Messiah, and will deceive many." Verse 23. At that time, if anyone says to you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. See, I have told you ahead of time. So if anyone tells you, there he is out in the desert, do not go out. Or here he is in the inner room, do not believe it. Now, in this prophecy, Jesus states that false messiahs will come and perform great signs and wonders to deceive. And there is a possibility that the very elect, the Bible-believing Christians, those who truly believe in and follow Jesus, will be deceived. Now, why would Jesus tell us that it is possible for the very elect to be deceived if it wasn't a big possibility? So whatever these false messiahs do, there is a likelihood that Bible-believing Christians will be deceived. So now, what is it that these false messiahs and prophets will do, and how will people be deceived by them? According to Jesus, 1, they claim they are the Messiah. 2, they will deceive many. 3, they will perform great signs and wonders. And 4, people will tell you that Jesus is in the desert or in the inner room, but it's not him. However, the thing is that the very elect, so not just the elect, but the very elect, that means people who really have a relationship with Jesus, Bible-believing Christians, all of them know that Jesus is coming in the clouds. So how is it possible for them to be deceived by someone telling them that Jesus is in the desert? How? And this is not some random prophecy. This is Jesus giving the prophecy. So this is important. What does the prophecy have to do with Israel and the power of attorney? Now, this is where the power of attorney comes in. If you go back to the prophecy, Jesus actually speaks of the power of attorney. It took some time for it to dawn on me. I thought Jesus was saying that people would claim that they were him and people would be deceived. But no, Jesus expressly states in Matthew 24, verse 5, "For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many." Will come in my name. Will come in my name. Will come in my name. Jesus is saying that people will come on his supposed behalf. I think what threw me and many people off is Jesus' statement that these false messiahs will claim, I am the Messiah. By claiming they were the Messiah, my mind just assumed that they were claiming to be Jesus. Not that they were claiming to be his representative. No, they were claiming to be actually Jesus. But Jesus is clear that they will come in his name. Therefore, they will come as his representatives. Just like the centurion was said to have come to Jesus, but in reality didn't actually come to Jesus himself. But Matthew records it as if he did because the elders were doing it on his behalf. So when they say, I am the Messiah, it's not that Jesus is saying that they are claiming that they are the Messiah himself. It is that they are claiming that their actions are on Jesus' behalf. Their actions are ordained by Jesus when they say that they are the Messiah. They claim that what they're doing is of Jesus and is from Jesus. Jesus did it through them. It was the will of Jesus. They were just his hands and feet. They were his representatives. So their actions are Jesus' actions. And so in that sense, they are the Messiah. Do you understand? And it's interesting that Jesus made this power of attorney prophecy in the book of Matthew, which also writes a story about the centurion using the power of attorney. So let's break this down. These false prophets and messiahs will achieve feats that will be considered great and will be considered as a sign from God. A sign usually points to something. It is there to reveal something to you, to confirm something. It will also be considered miraculous, a wonder. Then Jesus said that they will tell you that Jesus is in the desert or in a room. But now we know that Jesus was speaking about representatives, people doing things on his behalf. So what Jesus was saying, based on this, is that something will happen in the desert and in the inner room, and it will be attributed to him. But it is not him. Jesus has no part in it. These are false messiahs, false prophets, and false representatives. So what great sign and wonder happened in the desert? What great sign and wonder happened in the desert that has been attributed to Jesus? Firstly, where is the desert? Do you know that present-day Israel is described as Heaven made the desert bloom, and the desert being the land of Palestine, the ancient land of Israel. Just Google the phrase, Israel made the desert bloom. And I Googled and searched it on YouTube for you, so let's look at the headlines. Here are some headlines. There are many more headlines, videos, and articles that claim Israel made the desert bloom. But from these very few headlines and videos and articles that I have shown you, you can see that it has been attributed to the nation of Israel that they made the desert bloom. Christians and non-Christians have called this feat a sign and a wonder. Jesus prophesied that something would happen in the desert and it would be attributed to him. But he warned Christians not to go there, that it will not be him. We can also deduce that when Jesus warned, don't go out there, that he meant, don't support it. It's not him. But remember, Jesus also warned that the very elect would be deceived if it were possible. Do not many Christians who I consider and who consider themselves the very elect support Israel and claim that Israel was brought back together by God? So if my interpretation of this prophecy is correct, then Jesus' prophecy about the very elect being deceived came true. Now, I'm going to show you that this Israel is not Jesus' doing. First, let's go to the book of Acts in the New Testament. In Acts 1, Jesus is about to ascend to heaven, and he meets with his disciples, soon to become the apostles. So when they met together, they asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom of Israel? He said to them, it is not for you to know the times or dates the Father has set by his own authority. So according to Jesus' disciples, who was going to restore the kingdom of Israel? Was it Jewish immigrants to Palestine? Was it a UN partition plan? Was it the Balfour Declaration? Who is it that will restore the kingdom of Israel according to the disciples? According to the disciples, it is Jesus who is going to restore the kingdom of Israel. The kingdom. A kingdom is ruled by a king. Jesus said in John 18:36, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place. If Jesus, the Messiah, is the one to restore the kingdom of Israel, that means he will be the king of that kingdom. Jesus is currently not the king of Israel. In fact, Israel isn't ruled by a king, but by a prime minister under a coalition of political parties. Also, how did Jesus answer the disciples? Did he deny the charge that he's the one to restore the kingdom of Israel? No, he did not. In fact, he answered saying something very similar to what he said in Matthew 24, verse 36, which says, but about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Matthew 24:36. So, what Jesus said was, it is not for you to know the times or the dates the Father has set by his own authority, in Acts 1:6-7. So, Jesus did not refute that it is him that will restore the kingdom of Israel. Instead, he confirmed it, but stated that when he would do it was not for us to know. So according to Acts 1:6-7, it is Jesus that will restore the kingdom of Israel, not Jewish Zionists in Palestine in 1948. Next, Jesus said that the very elect of Christians would be deceived if it were possible. Has that happened? Has the very elect been deceived that modern-day Israel is the miraculous work of Jesus? The answer is yes, a big yes. In fact, in many Christian circles, statements and sentiments like these are touted. If you fight against Israel, you are fighting against God. God has a covenant with Israel, so it doesn't matter what they do. God will always be on their side. God's covenant with Israel is not based on what they do, so no matter what Israel does, God will always support them against another nation. No one can fight against Israel and win. God will curse those who curse Israel. The Bible says, whoever blesses Israel will be blessed. Let me now disprove these statements. In 720 BC, the Assyrian king laid siege on Israel for 3 years and defeated it. They completely destroyed the kingdom of Israel and took the Israelites as captives to Assyria. Israel ceased to exist. In fact, Assyria brought people from its empire to live in the land formerly known as Israel. This was how the Samaritan ethnicity was created. So Assyria fought against Israel and won. This is recorded in 2 Kings 17, 3-24. Now, if you read 2 Kings 17, 3-24, you will see that it does matter what Israel does. God is no respecter of persons or nations. But even before that, in 1 Kings 15, 16-22, Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram or Syria, helped break Israel's siege on Judah, another Jewish kingdom, by attacking Israel. King Ben-Hadad of Damascus conquered many Israelite cities. Despite reading this in the Bible, many Christians have been so brainwashed that they spout biblically inaccurate statements like, God will always support Israel against another nation. No one can fight against Israel and win. And by Israel, they mean all Jewish nations. That includes the nation of Judah, which was destroyed by Babylon, and the nation of Judea, which was annexed by Rome and eventually destroyed in 3 major wars, which Judea lost each one. The notion that God will curse those who curse Israel is found nowhere in the Bible. That promise was given to Abraham, not to the nation of Israel. If you want to say that Israel is Abraham's descendant, and so the promise applies to them as well, then it also applies to the Palestinians, who are the descendants of the Jewish people who survived the Jewish-Roman wars. I spoke about this in detail in my last video, Palestinians are not Arabs, which you should go and listen to. Furthermore, it seems to me that what people mean when they say whoever curses Israel is whoever criticizes Israel, whoever tells Israel to not oppress Palestinians, whoever condemns Israel for murdering Palestinians, for murdering Palestinian children, is viewed as cursing Israel. Finally, many Christians are extremely unaware of the brutal oppression and apartheid that Israel has put as a yoke on Palestinians. Many Christians have no idea about the Israeli occupation of the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. I will now list just a very, very brief taste of what Israel has been doing to the Palestinians in the West Bank since 1967. It was finding out about this brutal oppression that set me free from the fear that if I spoke out against Israel, that I was speaking out against God, because I knew that there was no way Jesus Christ, who said, I have come that you may have life and have life more abundantly, but the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. There was no way that Jesus would approve of or tolerate Israel's brutal oppression of the Palestinians that I am about to list for you. Okay, so Israel currently occupies Palestinian territories. What does that mean? Well, I'll describe to you what it means based on the testimonies of Jewish Israeli, ex-army, and current soldiers. What I describe here is not a fringe or rogue event in the West Bank. These things are daily occurrences that have been happening for decades and are official Israeli policy. Number 1, a lot of Israeli officers serving in the West Bank are 18 and 19. Israel arrests and jails Palestinian children. For what, you ask? For stabbing, murder, theft? No, for throwing stones at army officers. Did these Palestinian children actually throw stones? No, in many cases they did not. But that is irrelevant. Truth and justice is irrelevant when Israel wants to jail Palestinians, children and adults. Throwing stones is a serious crime according to Israeli occupation law. Children are interrogated without parental or lawyer supervision for hours and tortured to admit crimes and then jailed. And if they do this to children, imagine what they do to adults. All Palestinians living in the West Bank are tried in a military court. Illegal Jewish settlers in the West Bank are tried in civilian courts. Military courts have a conviction rate of 98% to 99% and are done in Hebrew, a language Palestinians don't speak. Every night and every day, Israeli soldiers invade Palestinian homes. Every night and every day. For what, you ask? Are those Palestinians harboring terrorists, quote-unquote terrorists? No. These invasions are done so that the Israeli army can make their presence known, so that if Palestinians ever dream of fighting back, they will know that the Israeli army is watching and will find them out. And by fighting back, they mean Palestinians fighting back against their brutal oppression by the Israelis. This is official Israeli policy, and I heard it from the mouth of a former IDF soldier or Israeli soldier. When Israeli soldiers invade these houses, sometimes they just smash holes into the walls of Palestinian homes. They trash their homes in pretense search operations. They sometimes blindfold the family whose home they have invaded in the night and put them in a room to remain. This family, this Palestinian family, are not allowed into any other room in their house until the soldiers, Israeli soldiers, are done using their house for weeks. And yes, they force parents, Palestinian parents, to wake up their children as well, all the time. Some Israeli soldiers loot and steal things from these Palestinian homes. Israel often accuses Hamas, who is in Gaza, not in the West Bank, of using children as shields. However, UN reports, so United Nations reports, have stated that Hamas doesn't do that. But guess who uses human shields? Israel, according to UN investigations. Israeli soldiers use Palestinian children, women, and old people as shields when they want to arrest someone. They send them into suspects' houses against their will to put on the lights of the house and open the doors in the house and to bring out the suspect. This is dangerous because occupiers might kill the invading child and woman and older person. And it's also dangerous because the Palestinian is then viewed as a collaborator. Israel has built most or all of its military bases in civilian areas. So essentially, Israel uses its population as human shields. Israeli soldiers, men and women, commit violent acts against Palestinians, Palestinian men, Palestinian women, and Palestinian children included. Israeli soldiers have not killed, but innocent Palestinians. And sometimes they kill Palestinian officers by order of the Israeli government in revenge attacks. Illegal Israeli settlers in the West Bank have been committing violent acts against Palestinians, their property, and farms for decades. And by violent acts, I also mean, and they are not arrested or brought to justice. This is called settler violence. In fact, Israeli soldiers will watch as these violent settlers attack, harass, and destroy Palestinian homes and land. If the Palestinian fights back, then the soldier will step in, of course, to stop the Palestinian and arrest them. Sometimes Israeli soldiers have had to protect Palestinian women and children as they go to school because violent Jewish settlers throw rocks at them and hurl vile insults at these Palestinian women and children. This protection by the Israeli soldiers, which is rare, makes the illegal and violent Israeli settlers mad at the Israeli soldiers, and they start throwing rocks at the Israeli soldiers. Remember, this is a serious crime, to throw rocks at an Israeli soldier. So are these illegal and violent Israeli settlers jailed for throwing rocks and for assaulting innocent Palestinian women and children? No, they are not jailed. Nothing happens to them. Palestinians cannot go anywhere without the permission of the Israeli army. There are Israeli army checkpoints all over the West Bank. Palestinians need to have stamps on their IDs to move from locations. Israelis will tell you it is because of suicide bombings during the Second Intifada, the Palestinian uprising. Now, please ask yourself, why did Palestinians decide to uprise? At these checkpoints, Palestinians are made to wait, standing in the hot sun, while Israeli soldiers check their IDs. No chairs or canopy is provided for the Palestinians, and some of them are elderly people, women, and children. Imagine what it must be like for pregnant Palestinian women. In fact, Israeli soldiers will prevent ambulances from taking Palestinian children and adults that have been shot or injured, so that by the time they finally let the ambulance through, the injured child or adult has died. Palestinian cars are confiscated and not returned for no reason. No reason at all. There is a box full of Palestinian car keys with Israeli soldiers. Several Palestinian men have been denied the opportunity to further their education abroad at university because Israeli soldiers refused to let them through a checkpoint. Were these young men militants? Were they dangerous? No, nothing at all. It was just the whim of an 18, 19, 20-year-old Israeli officer in charge. Israel jails thousands of Palestinian children, men and women for no reason and no charge. This is called administrative detention, a fancy word for kidnapping. There are many Palestinians being abused and tortured in Israeli jails with no charge for years. Israel steals the organs of Palestinians they have jailed and killed. Palestinian families have received the bodies of their loved ones cut up with organs missing. Israeli snipers aim, target, and murder Palestinian children. I'm talking of children as young as 5 years old. There are roads in Hebron, in the West Bank, that Palestinians are not allowed on. Only Jewish people are allowed on those roads. Israel lies all the time. They lie about what really happened in 1948 when they expelled Palestinians from their villages, massacring them in what became known as the Nakba. When Christians visit Israel, Israel lies to them that visiting Palestinian areas is dangerous. This is to prevent Christians from meeting Palestinians and seeing how Israel oppresses them. Israel lies about what they are currently doing to Palestinians, or they make excuses for it. And if you're not alert, their excuses will dumb down your conscience about what is right and wrong. You will start to defend and justify demonic behavior. When Jesus said to the religious leaders of his day, "You are like your father the devil, who was a murderer and a liar from the beginning. When he lies, he speaks his own language," Jesus was also prophesying about present-day Israeli leaders. They are the same. I have just listed a few of the abuses that Israel commits against the Palestinians. I'll put the links to the evidence backing my statements in the description box. So if you're a Christian, please ask yourself if Jesus approves of all that I have listed, and if Jesus sides with Israel in their brutal oppression of Palestinians. Can you see how even the elect have been deceived to think that Jesus had a part in the formation of this nation in the desert? Once again, my interpretation of this prophecy by Jesus could be a misinterpretation, right? I'm not perfect. I could have made a mistake. But am I wrong to say that Jesus does not approve of the brutal occupation and oppression Israel has done and is doing against the Palestinians? All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out my other video, Palestinians Are Not Arabs, and check out my book, Apostle Paul Was a Feminist, Volume 1. In it, I show in the Bible what Apostle Paul called the Palestinian Christians. Please subscribe to my channel, tell your friends, share and like this video, and share your thoughts in the comment section. See you next time. Bye.